Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We're so grateful that you joined us for another quarantine live edition of, this Q&A quarantine live edition with WOW Ministries. We're so grateful that you tuned in on today. We thank you for just being with us on today, and we're just so blessed that you're here. We ask that you would please share and like this broadcast because we have somebody very special today that I believe that's going to uplift and encourage you. Someone that I've known practically my whole life, growing up as an adolescent and into adulthood. And I'm so grateful that she can join us today. And I speak of none other than the U.S. Representative for New Jersey, 12th Congressional District. And she's here with us right now. And I'm so grateful to have Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman with us on this evening. So can you please like and share this broadcast? You'll want to hear what she has to say. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her in. And there she is. Hello there. If everybody can please give an ovation wherever you are for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman. How are you today, Congresswoman?
I'm wonderful. How are you? It's good to see you.
Yes, it's good to see you as well. Good to see you as well. I'm glad that you are doing well.
I am.
So we thank you for coming. Yes, we thank you for coming on this platform with WOW Ministries, which we serve to uplift and encourage on this platform. And every one of my guests have done just that. And I don't believe that you're going to be any different because you are always encouraging, uplifting everybody that you come into connection with. So we just say thank you, and we bless God for having you on at this time.
Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Corey Malloy. I'm glad to be with you this evening.
And yes, yes. Well. And I see there is a little. Yes, okay. And I see there's a little delay on your end. So, but it'll be worked out. It'll be worked out. So, but yeah, so when we get started, we like to just be real, and we like to just start off with some real questions. So we just have some fun icebreakers that we're going to start off with to let our viewers see and know who Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman really is.
All right now.
And so we have our first icebreaker is, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl. No question about it. I hate getting up early in the morning, but I seem to come to life around 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Do you prefer M&Ms or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Popcorn. I like M&Ms because I love chocolate. So.
Yeah, I do too, but it doesn't love me.
And so, what is your most used emoji?
Right now, it's been 2.
Okay.
It's been sad and angry.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just a little round things.
Right.
Other than that, every time I can figure out where my other emojis are, because it seems I can't figure it out half the time, then I do my what's up, hello, how are you, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so, and can you live without your smartphone for more than 24 hours?
Absolutely not. I don't even know how I existed without it before.
Right.
If I'm not on it, I'm asking it questions.
Right. It's so funny because, like you said, we had to do without it for so long, and now that we've had it, it's like, well, what am I going to do? I know I was telling somebody else I was without it for like 10 minutes, and I almost had a conniption. But
the only thing I do is I leave it downstairs at night. When I finally go to bed around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, I leave it downstairs, because if it just like shoots a light, I wake right up, and I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and I don't want to do that. I want to try to get some sleep.
Okay. And so in our last question, if you had to eat one meal every day for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, I would tell you that I think it would have watermelon in it. That would be a piece of it, and maybe some ribs, you know.
Hey, can't go wrong with that. That's something wrong with that. So,
both of which I have to eat in moderation.
right. So right. But if you had to, you choose that. So we thank you. So
and the other thing is corn on the cob. Because I used to eat so much corn on the cob, my mom used to call me Trigger. Yeah, I love corn on the cob.
Wow. Okay, so these are some fun facts about Congresswoman on tonight. So listen, so in Michelle, in our former First Lady Michelle Obama's documentary Becoming, and it's so inspiring and encouraging, but she prefaces in that that everybody has a story. She prefaces that, you know, sometimes we can be more focused on people's stats, their statistics, than their story. And so everybody has a story. So can you share with us, what is your story? You know, you have so many accolades and things that are credited to you, and rightfully so. But at the end of the day, people might not care that you're a congresswoman or this. They want to know your story. So can you share with us your story?
Yeah, and you know, I've never had it posed to me in that way, Corey. But so my story is that I'm one of 4 children, and I was blessed to have a mother and a father at all times. My mom worked in the house. She worked harder than dad. Daddy worked outside of the house. I'm the only girl. I was a daddy's girl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, real bad. Like my mother and my father and I would go on a ride somewhere, and I tell her, "You can sit in the back. I want to sit next to Daddy." um, we had evening dinners all the time, and we'd always talk about what's happening around us and how blessed we were. And we weren't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but whatever we had, we were told that we had to share. So any day of the week, one of us would bring somebody home for dinner, and they just pull up a chair and sit at the table. There'd always be something for somebody else. And then if someone needed a place to stay because they had a bad episode at home or whatever, you pulled out the cot, and they became one of the members of the family, and they stayed there at our house until they could move on to wherever they were going. So I was sort of raised in that. And even as an adult, I have been blessed to have people stay at my house who didn't have someplace else to stay. And they stayed there till they got it together. So I guess that kind of sums up that I believe that I have a purpose in life. And it just so happens that I ended up becoming an elected official. I never ever sought it. It wasn't on my, sort of to-do list. But it gave me an opportunity to do what I think is important, and that is to fight for the rights of people who don't have the same voice and opportunity as others. So that's basically who I am. I'm a child of God. There was a time when I could be very active in our church. I was very active with you. And then I kind of got pulled off into politics a little bit, but I tell people all the time, I know to whom I belong.
That's right.
So I try to stand up for the things that I think are right, even though they may not be popular sometimes, So I'm just a person, I think, who's been opportunities open up because it was part of God's purpose for me to be wherever I am. And I can never lose sight of that.
Okay. All right. And that's awesome. And yes, and I can agree to that no matter what platform you're on, you're always going to give God the praise, the glory, and the honor, because you know that it truly belongs to Him.
That's right.
And so as we go forward, within our world today, within our country, it's been said that we're not just facing one pandemic right now, but we're facing 2 pandemics. And I want to deal with this first pandemic, which is that of racism. And we all saw on the news and just the media, the widespread with the death of George Floyd and the outrage and the uproar that this nation has been in. And I know with you having a husband, 2 sons, nieces, nephews, What were your initial thoughts on that, feeling and seeing that and watching that? What was your thoughts?
Watching the Mr. Floyd die before your eyes was one of the most painful experiences I've ever had in life. Having gone through the sort of stand in silence for the 8 minutes and 46 seconds in memory of him, have been the longest 8 minutes and 46 seconds in my life. My heart was it's just absolutely broken. As a mother, to have this man call out to his mother, who was already dead. I mean, it was just the cruelty of it, Corey, just broke my heart. And I was saying to my husband today, as we're looking at, and my son actually stopped by, and we were looking at protesters that were crossing a bridge in Brooklyn, but the everyday manifestation of protest. All of that's really healthy. That is good. But George Floyd would have preferred to be alive.
That's right.
You know, and I don't lose sight on that. Yeah, he's going to be a martyr. He's going to go down in history. But he rather would have been alive. And his family would rather have him be alive. So I think we're at this moral moment that it's a confluence of a lot of things. And out of it, we should become better people.
Right, right.
This is the time when what the nation saw, what the world saw, because they're protesting in other countries in response to police brutality. What they saw was so stunning to the eyes. What they found was so abhorrent to experience it, that they've recognized that we're at that point now. We're at that tipping point. So this president that we have now did not create racism. Racism has been there forever. He just kind of has ripped the sheets off of it and made sure that people were feeling comfortable to be disrespectful to people that they didn't look like or didn't like.
Right, right.
And so anger has like sort of been there now for a couple of years. Right. And we've seen abuses, not just Mr. Floyd, but Breonna Taylor, just a few days before that, you know, and Eric Gardner and Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin, you name it, Sally Bland. All of these things have been dealt with like individually, and everyone gets charged up and they go, this can't happen. And then we just go back and try to do whatever else it is we're doing. That's not happening this time. This time, in response to what we're seeing, we're not only trying to deal from this, talk about my bailiwick now, which is legislation on a national level. We're not only trying to deal with this in a sense of urgency and looking at new laws that are going to be marked up in a committee next week in the Judiciary Committee, and hopefully passed by the House, and hopefully entertained and passed by the Senate and signed by the President in response to the urgency of the moment. Things like, it's illegal to do a chokehold.
That's right.
It's illegal not to have your camera on. It's if you are an officer who is engaged in the kind of conduct that has been anything but serving and protecting, and you find yourself on this national registry, then you ought not be allowed to be employed anyplace else. That if you engage in behavior that is criminal behavior, even if you're in a blue suit, you will be charged. That's and right. You will be treated through the criminal justice system. We're at a moment now, I think, where good officers are willing to stand up and say, this is not who we are. And we have white people who say that racism is out of hand and that we're hurt by it and we're willing to stand up with you. So this is the time where not only do we do things that respond to the urgency of the moment, but we use the momentum of what we're dealing with to look at other issues and policies and laws that have perpetuated this disparity between Black folks and white folks, and it's created this sort of second class, this underclass, and has given people permission to treat us with disrespect, disdain, or just a sense that we have no value. So there's the immediate and there's the ongoing.
Yeah.
And I think that out of this tragedy, and it was a tragedy, we're going to see work done on the state level, the federal level, the local levels that are going to address this getting a hold of out of control individuals wearing badges and blue uniforms, having greater transparency and accountability, and consequences for the behavior that is outside of the law.
That's right.
So Mr. Floyd gave up his life. This unarmed Black man who may or may not had tried to write a check or use a forged bill, $20. There's no excuse for what happened to him. And I'm so pleased that Keith Ellison is the Attorney General in the state, and that he has taken over the investigations, because I served with him in Congress.
Okay.
And he is honest and brilliant and forthright and progressive, and will do everything he can to ensure that justice is brought in this case.
Yeah, and you know, it's listening to your comments. So many people think that, you know, we're in a post-racial era, and we see by these incidences and so many in the past that we certainly are far from it. That it's still prevalent today, and it still exists more so now than ever. And so, and just seeing these protests, you know, I know we have one going on tonight here in Ewing, and but just to see that. The protests that had happened, 2 peaceful protests that happened in Trenton, and then to see the violence that took place afterwards. Yeah. And I think it was one person that had was talking to Robin Roberts, and he said, you know, you don't want to become a criminal while you're protesting for change. And so a lot of people, you know, I saw in trying to condone riots, people have been taking Martin Luther King saying that a riot is the language of the unheard. And they're taking that and they're running with it, but they're taking it out of context, because we know that he was an advocate for nonviolence and peaceful protest. But what he was trying to say, that when we're not being heard, and that's the last resort that people take to, that these riots and these violent protests is not what we want to do, but it's when nothing's being done. When these injustices still continue, then, you know, people go forth with these riots. And so he has in his book called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And in that book, he posits ways and methods of how Black people can see a glimmer of hope at the end of all the injustices and everything. And so, you being a leader, what hope would you offer us on tonight? What hope would you give us? Because as the president now, you know, being a leader, and more leaders need to offer hope, which is the possibility of change. He's definitely not doing that. But you as a leader, what would be a word of hope that you can share with the people?
Let me talk about a couple of little things. Number one is that I don't let anybody characterize what's happening at the peaceful protests as rioting. I think that the people that are coming and looting and vandalizing and creating chaos and danger are strategically placed, and they're not part of the peaceful rioting.
Right. No, I believe that too.
Peaceful protesting. And so I just want the protesters, when they encounter those people, step back from them and let them be seen for who they are. My hope is in God.
That's right.
Because I know that there are lessons that we have to learn, there are experiences that we have to have from which we need to grow, to endure, to be better people, to be able to hear him better. And so I know, like on a macro level, on the big universal level, there is my God, and I'm not alone in this.
Mm-hmm.
But there is hope on just sort of on the ground level.
Mm-hmm.
We see it now with Minneapolis taking up its own local legislative action to hold police accountable. You're seeing it when you see what the Black Caucus did and the Congressional Black Caucus did today, ushering forth a whole agenda on justice and transparency and in the police. You see it when we are engaging in this sort of virtual communications reality that we have to deal with right now when we tell everybody, you got to vote.
That's right.
You have got to vote come November the 3rd, I think it is. You've got to vote. But that because we have this other pandemic, you may have to exercise your right to vote by mail.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to be ready for it. You need to be educated for it. So the people of your generation and the younger generation and even my generation, we got to be ready. We got to understand what it means to cast that ballot. Because once we cast that ballot, if we do it the way we should, then we will have people in there that are more representative of what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't let them go. You hold them accountable for the good stuff that they said when they were running for office. Make sure they're doing it once they get elected to office. So it's not like, a lot of folks thought when President Obama got elected, okay, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm gonna chill out now.
Mm-hmm.
He needed us more than ever.
Right.
Because you saw racism manifest its ugly head when he was the president.
That's right.
So this is the United States of America, and we have rights, and we have the right to express our concerns. We have a right to express our displeasure with government. We've got to use those expressions. But because we have this pandemic, we also got to be real careful in what we do, because we've already seen that that when the pandemic infects, when the virus infects someone who's Black, who hasn't had access to good health care, who may have pre-existing conditions, the outcome is different. So we're dying at a higher rate. So here we are. We got to express our rights. If we're going to march, we got to march. But we need to be masked up and gloved up and don't touch anybody and don't let anybody get too close to you. The hope is in the fact that we are pushing back, that we as a people are not going to tolerate this any longer. And I've never seen the kind of diversity in protesting and the persistence in protesting since Dr. Martin Luther King's days. I mean, the 4 officers in Minneapolis, they've been arrested. One of them is on bail of 1.2 million. Others are on bail for 750 million. They're probably 750,000. They're probably going to spend some time there while the system works its way out, and they should. But the people haven't stopped protesting because it's not just about this one case. It's about systemic racism that's got to be dealt with yes, these policies here dealing with police and transparency and accountability, but housing discrimination, education disparities, job opportunities. All of those things are going to have to be addressed. And the federal government, I think, has a very big role in 1, bringing the economy back, but 2, making sure that everybody is benefiting from it. So I'm looking for a great big infrastructure bill, almost like Roosevelt did. Rebuild this country. It needs to be rebuilt anyway. The bridges, the roads, the energy grids, the schools, all kinds of building needs to take place. And everybody needs to have a shot at a good job.
Right.
And we need to make sure that there are educational opportunities that recognize that everybody doesn't want to go to college, but everybody does have something to contribute. And you can be good with your hands. I know these young people, they can whiz through all of this coding and all this stuff that I don't have a clue about, but there's a market for that. But we need to make sure we have apprenticeship and job training programs, and we have stipends that we pay people that are retooling and learning how to get marketable skills for now. There is so much that needs to be done. For the first time in history, there are 50-some African Americans in the House of Representatives, and there are 3 black senators. Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are the 2 that I kind of look to when we're trying to get something done. So for the first time, you got federal representation from very diverse communities who are standing up and looking at and working on these issues. You got Maxine Waters, who's making sure that Auntie Maxine, like, making sure that there's money going into housing that keeps people from getting evicted or losing their homes to mortgages, but also is going to provide for the building of housing, because we don't have the kind of housing we need, and we're not dispersing that housing into the kind of communities that ensure that our young children go to schools in districts that aren't overwhelmed by resource needs and don't have to worry about safety and security in getting to school or being in school. There's just so much to be done. Healthcare. We can't continue to allow the African American community to get pneumonia when the rest of the country gets a cold. You got to make sure that you have the right to health care, and we got to pass the laws. And you've got people in Congress that are willing to work, and they're not all black now, because there's some good folks in Congress that are willing to work on those policies that are going to turn things around. So this moral moment that we're in, it comes from a very sad occasion, but it has set us up to do some lasting good.
Yeah. Wow. So that's awesome. And I like how you're saying, like, we all have to be a part of this change, and change definitely begins with us. Like, we can't sit back and, it's often said that, you can't complain where you don't contribute.
Yes.
And so if you just sit back and you just talk and do nothing, then you're culpable with the rest of the people that, that won't do anything. And so as we move into the second pandemic, which is COVID-19, and we see that it is just just wiped through the African American community. I remember when it was just almost like a novel thing that, the African American community thought that we were immune from it, that we were exempt. And then to see African Americans dying at an alarming rate. And so I want to say, how has this pandemic of COVID-19, how has this affected and impacted you during this time?
So I already knew about the disparities in healthcare. I already, and the disparities in mental health care as well. And I've been trying to work on at least the mental health care issues a lot. But we already knew that access to health care was something that Barack Obama envisioned everybody, and that the current president is trying to undo the Affordable Care Act with nothing to replace it. I don't think that we were sufficiently educated on the fact that this virus knew no boundaries, and it was a respecter of nothing. And so if we were in a position to be infected, we were going to be infected. And because we typically live, with extended family members, they were going to be in harm's way as well, especially if they were elderly. And we have a disproportionate percentage of diabetes, obesity, blood pressure, heart, all of those things. So we're a very vulnerable people, not genetically, but because of the systemic impact
Mhm.
of racism and poverty and policies that made it hard for us to have the kind of access to healthcare.
Mhm.
I think that this is another illustration that out of a very tragic situation where you're finding that African Americans in a particular community can represent 12% of the population, and yet 40% of those who've been hospitalized, seriously ill on ventilators, and possibly dying from this virus. So it's eye-opening, and it's an opportunity. I have to see these things as an opportunity to get you to come on board and make sure that we're providing the opportunity for everybody to have access to healthcare,
Right.
not just wealthy people.
Mm-hmm. And we've been saying that on this platform. I think all of my guests have been saying that nobody is exempt. The rich, the poor, it's hit everybody. But there's still some people who are still nonchalant towards this virus, and and it's really nothing to play around with. It's everybody has to take precautions. But I wanted to ask you, have you personally been affected by it, or know anybody, or just people around you? Some of my guests, it hit their homes hard, and and they just didn't know what to do. So have you been personally impacted or affected by it? Because I truly believe, and the saying is true, that when one is infected, we are all affected. And
That's
as
true. Yeah.
African Americans, and I always say, even though, and I praise God that God has kept my family, immediate and some extended, safe from COVID-19. But even though I'm not infected or my family's not infected, when I hear of one of our brothers or sisters or church members or who are infected with the virus, it definitely has an effect on all of us. So, can you share if you have any? If it's affected you.
Very much so. I mean, you asked me in the beginning what kind of emojis are you tending to use, and I use the sad one a lot, the one with the tear, because I'm every day I'm reading about of somebody losing their life to the virus. Young people, old people, black young, black old.
Right.
So I haven't lost anybody in my family, praise God. Where we all had adhered to the social distancing. Even if one of my brothers or somebody stops by, they're fully masked.
Mm-hmm.
If someone comes into my house, even if it's a family member, we're fully masked. I don't get to kiss and hug my granddaughter,
No.
who's, just the light of my life. You know that. So yeah, I'm very affected by it. And I'm also disturbed that science hasn't told us yet what you really need to know in order to get back out here. So on some hearings I've had, I've asked some of the experts, you saw what happened on Memorial Day. You saw what happened in the Ozarks with all those people in the swimming pool together.
Right.
Yeah, you saw people at the space launch in Florida. You saw people at the beaches in California. What are we going to know 2 and 3 weeks from now? And they're showing that there's some spikes in some of those states.
Yeah.
And that's because people have become blasé or thought that they could just go hang out. You can't. And until we get this in our head, that right now we've got to social distance, we got to continually wash our hands, not touch our face, and put a mask on when we're in the presence of people, then we're just going to elongate. This is a very stealthy virus. And we haven't even gotten to the so-called second wave that they're talking about coming, but we're peaking back up. And I'm concerned because sometimes the state says, okay, well, we're leveling off. We're flattening that curve. I know you've heard that a lot. So we have less hospitalizations. We have less infections, that kind of thing. All of that, Corey, is a function of how many people you're testing. And we're testing like 1% of the population or something like that. You can't tell me, and the scientists can't tell me, and they haven't, that it's okay to just test 1% of the population and you really know the trend and where you can be and where you can't be. We're not there yet. And so even though there's pressure on our governors and our mayors and things like that to open up their businesses and restaurants, got to be very careful. Like I'm not going to have dinner in a restaurant right now.
Right.
I do order and pick it up or have it delivered because I want to support the industry. I think that that's really important. I'm not going to go hang out on the beach. Well, I don't like to hang on the beach or the pool. I do like the pool. And I don't want anyone that I haven't been sheltering in with to be around me without their mask on. And I will not disrespect you and not wear mine.
Right.
And I don't like the mask. Half the time I figure I can't even breathe in it. I'm like, I must be claustrophobic.
I think that's everybody's response,
And then your glasses get off.
Right.
You're like,
yeah. And so,
but I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it.
Right. We still want to take our precautions. But as we close up this section regarding the pandemic, Maya Angelou quoted that people don't. No, it wasn't Maya Angelou, but it's a popular quote, and it says that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so, what have you done personally to show during this time that you care during this pandemic?
I've done some things anonymously.
Okay.
Because I don't believe your left hand should know what your right hand did on behalf of somebody. Don't brag about it.
No.
Just be blessed that you can do it.
Yeah.
I have I've engaged in the discussions and the debates on the bills that we're passing. I've tried to feed some people. I've been very careful about my social distancing because of my age, because I had cancer a year and a half ago, and because I'm a diabetic. So my thing is I am very healthy. I want to be healthy when this thing is over so I can go back doing my business. So I've been doing a lot of the work we're doing virtually. I have tried to be there for whoever needed me, and so I've spent a lot of time in conversations and things of that nature. And I've tried to help out wherever I can if someone has expressed a need. But I try to do it in a low key way.
And I think that's just it. Like nobody has to know. They could just say, you could just say, even if you just put a note with it that say, hey, I care, I'm concerned, and and I think that's where your blessing will come in and you blessing somebody else without them knowing.
Yeah.
But wow, that's awesome. That's great. And so I want to move into this section with women in leadership. On this platform so far, I've had like all preachers and pastors, and we've just posed these questions, and all of my guests have been women. And one of the things I want to ask, and I think you prefaced it when we started, you serve in so many capacities, but did you ever expect to be where you are now, looking back?
Never. My husband and I say that all the time, who knew? God knew. I didn't ever, like I told you before, I never sought to be an elected official. I was a daddy's girl, and my daddy was in the legislature. He always wanted one of us to follow him, and we used to tell him, nah, because you've already compromised our anonymity. We can't do anything in this county without somebody telling on us. We know we don't want to be elected official. But when daddy got sick, he came and lived with me. And when he died, and then later on, Shirley Turner, who was sitting in his seat then, decided she was going to run for Senate. That was my way of keeping my daddy alive, was to run for his seat. And so that's how I became an elected official. I decided I was going to do it, talk to my brothers, talk to my husband, of course. We all got together. raise money. You have to raise money when you're running for office. Had to prove that you could win.
Mm.
And so I became a part of the New Jersey legislature. And while there, um, Jim McGreevey came up and asked me to be the chairman of the party. I'm like, well, what does that do? You know, I don't know. Why are you picking me? I'm like, God, what's going on here? So I accepted that position and I did it. And then I became the majority leader in the assembly. All of these things I didn't necessarily seek.
Did you,
But
let me
once,
say this, did you have a love for politics a little bit? Did you have any interest or likes towards it?
well, I had respect for it because my dad was in it.
Okay.
And so my mom, who was really a homebody, used to always tell me when I was young, go ahead, you're your daddy's date. Going out there with him on that. I didn't realize that was preparation.
Mm.
So no, I never really had an appetite for it. I didn't think I had the personality for it because you know me, so you know I could be a little outspoken sometimes. I had a lot of growing up to do. And I don't know, those things just happen. And when they happen, I realize that I can't waste the time. I can't waste that opportunity. So I tried to work on legislation that advanced issues that I was concerned about, whether or not it was the over incarceration of Black men, whether or not it was mistreatment of Black women, whether or not it was voting issues, you know, and housing. I tried to work on those things that were important to my community, as I figured I must be here for that reason.
Mm.
So if you've got some leadership, use it.
Mm.
And then I woke up one morning and opened up Facebook and it was like, run, Bonnie, run. I'm like, run what? And I called my friends and it was like, you know, Rush Holt decided he's not running for Congress this next term. So you're going to run. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And yeah, you are. And so, yes, I did.
Mm.
And then I won. And so I got to sit next to John Lewis. You know who John Lewis is, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Kelly, I'd be in caucus meetings and I'd be like, and John Lewis would turn around, look at me, and I'd just like, and so I finally had to say to him, Congressman, I'm not stalking you. I just can't believe God put me in this place to work with you.
Mm.
This is like an amazing blessing to me.
Mm.
So I'm in Congress and now I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to fight for the issues that are important to my community because it's my community that's been left behind.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
But no, it wasn't on my plan.
Okay, and so we see that with women in leadership, a lot of women have taken on dominant roles. They have become the top, and we know that that has been a threat to a lot of men. And so I know particularly within my field, you know, with clergy, women have always been a minority growing up down through the church. But you as a politician, has there been any struggles for you going forth as a woman in politics? Has your way been made easy? Is it a little easier, or has it been difficult for you? Can you share with us?
So I don't know if I'm reacted to first because I'm Black or if I'm female.
Mm.
You know, so there are opportunities that passed me by or people didn't consider me for that I would have been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure whether it's because I was a woman or whether or not it's because I was Black. But those things just make you stronger, you know? And you just have to have confidence in yourself, know what you're talking about, study what you want to, you know, present, and then raise it. And don't let anybody discourage you from it. Because I think it's very important for women to be in leadership positions. And I'll tell you why. We tend to get into leadership positions and pursue power to change things.
Mm.
We're not interested in just having titles. We're interested in expanding the opportunities for other people.
Mm.
And we look at things differently, I think, than men who are in power. Now, I know what y'all are up against as women in the ministry, because, I mean, Reverend Woodson was like one of the first people to put a woman in the pulpit in Trenton. Remember Joni?
That's correct. That is correct.
That was awesome. We were like, hey, but I've seen through the years, but we need women in leadership in a ministry. And so, Reverend Skinner does amazing things in the ministry. She brings politics and the word together and helps the churches to understand their role and sort of their obligation in that. Barbara Skinner, look her up.
Okay.
You will be very impressed.
Okay.
Women bring change and are willing to fight for things and to put themselves out there and to bring others along. We're not interested in solo leadership. We're interested in making systems work better.
Okay.
And one of the baddest sisters is Mayor Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Because what she did was bold and black and bad.
Right. Right.
And in your face, Black Lives Matter.
Right. Right.
That's what a woman does, and that's what a Black woman does.
Wow. Yeah. So, and that's great. We see more women in leadership today. We see them just taking charge. But sometimes women can be jealous of one another. At least I know that within preaching and everything, because everybody's trying to. But I truly believe that we shouldn't compete against one another. We should complement one another. And right. And so I don't know if you faced any of that, because one of my sister friends that was on here, the platform, she has a quote that says, "I don't have to dim your light to let mine shine." We can shine together, and we're all better together. And so, have you kind of dealt with that through your career, with people saying like, well, she thinks I'm better and that, because and it just makes no sense how we still have to go through that. Yeah. I know I go through it, but it just makes no sense how we have to still go through that, and people don't really recognize as women, because we are the minority, because we are African American, that we have two minorities against us, and that we should be really thinking that let's come together during this time, because we can accomplish more together than we can apart.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've all experienced it. I try not to deal with it. I try not to let my ego get me in a position where I've got to be noticed or something. I just, like I tell God, thank you. Just let me do the work. Let me, I don't have to be the leader here. I don't have to be the point person. You don't have to point at me. You don't have to name me. I'm just trying to do the work. And if I do something and you kind of react to it because you wish you had that idea first, okay, but I don't let it bother me. And I'll tell you something else. I started in the elected politics older. I was 49 when I started in the elected politics. So I didn't come to the state legislature as a youngster. I came after 28 years in state government and executive branch. And I knew who I was, and I just, and then when I went to Congress, I went there as a seasoned adult, for real, and so I'm not trying to make a name for myself. I'm just trying to do the work.
Okay. And so how important is mentorship in regards to you? Like, who were some of your mentors coming up, and, how can you share advice for a young person who's looking to get into politics, particularly a young woman? But what's your advice to them? So who were some of your mentors, and how can you inspire and encourage young women in politics today who want mentorship and are seeking it?
So I adored Shirley Chisholm, and I had the occasion to spend a day with her and to be encouraged by her. But you think about when I started out, and there weren't that many women around to mentor me. I think that it's important that younger women have relationships with more seasoned women to help them navigate and to help them to recognize that, yeah, you do deserve to be in this space. no, this is not the imposter syndrome that you're experiencing. You really are smart enough to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a good move. Here's another way you could look at it, kind of thing. So I think that women should be engaged with other women as they're going through, their sort of stages and their phases in life. If a woman wants to be involved in politics, then generally speaking, she first gets involved in the community,
Mm-hmm.
in the community building aspect, in the showing up at sort of the council meetings, the meetings at the state house, whatever level she chooses to be on. But it generally comes out of an activism
Mm-hmm.
than more than anything else. And you seek people who you respect, and you ask them, hey, will you be my mentor? I mean, I've had some women ask me if I would be their mentor, and it's like, yeah, but so I might not hear from them for months at a time, but I'm there for them when they call me.
Okay.
And then I have women who refer to me as their mentor. And I was like, I don't ever remember having that conversation. But if you see me in that role, all's good.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do call out to me, I'm going to try to be there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow, that's all. And it's a small world. I had on this platform Jackie Clark Chisholm, and you the Clark sisters, and you mentioned Shirley Chisholm, and she shared in the interview that Shirley Chisholm was her husband's aunt.
Wow,
Yes, it was
small
a
world.
small world. I didn't even put that together. Didn't even connect that. So, but yeah, Shirley Chisholm was definitely a forerunner to see how far she went as she made her way through her political journey. And so, but yes, I do believe it's important to have a mentor because, like you said, the guidance and the leadership that they have to offer. And always, and we've talked on another platform that mentorship, make sure you know what you want. You don't want to waste the person's time because, so many people might say, I want you as a mentor, but you don't know what you want. You don't know, you're not sure. But when you do reach out to that person for mentorship, make sure you know what you want. And so I want to ask, how do you balance everything? How do you balance your roles, wife, mother, grandmother? How do you balance all of those roles?
Well, I'm going to tell you that being a member of Congress has really gobbled up a huge amount of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm not in committee meeting, if I'm not being briefed on something, if I'm not on the floor voting, then I'm reading all the stuff I need to read in order to be able to do those other things like the committee meetings or vote on a bill and that kind of thing. Or I'm dealing with constituents, all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time. My husband he does not ask me for a lot. He's like the person that God needed me to have right now. He supports me. He lifts me up when I'm low and tired, he encourages me. He does his thing. Both of us, we don't have children, in the home now. So we don't have to be daily parents. We can't wait to see our grandchild though, or our grandchildren or our children when we can. So my husband goes down to Washington with me every time I go. And I tell him, I'm not doing this. If you're not doing this, I'm not doing this by myself, I just have been blessed with an incredible partner.
Wow, that's awesome. And so I've asked everybody this one question. Was there ever a time that you just felt like giving up, calling it quits? And what'd you say?
More than once.
Okay. And so, and in those instances, in those moments, how did you overcome that? How did you get back on track? And,
I pray on it and I talk to my husband about it. I mean, I'm going to tell you that I felt that way when the pandemic hit and then the Floyd hit, I'm like, oh my God, it's too much pain. And then I realized, hey, Bon, you do what you got to do. And if it's not you, who would it be? And so why are you going to bow out at a time when maybe something that you could offer would be helpful? But I know God's going to talk to me when it's time to step aside. But right now, he's telling me, you stay in there and you do what you got to do, girl.
That's right. Stay in the game.
Stay in the game, yeah.
Right. And so as we wrap up this question I've asked everybody, is there a moment that you can remember that you'll never forget, you know, in your political career, you know, regarding you, something that God might have done for you, you know, probably winning, but can you share something like one of those, you know, we call them ministry moments, and it can still be ministry moment through politics, but a ministry moment that you'll never forget. You'll never forget.
This is the one that comes to me quickly. So I spent the whole time campaigning for Congress with a person who's now one of my deputy chiefs of staff. And we rode up and down the state of New Jersey, the 12th congressional district, and I kept the gospel stations on. And every time Hezekiah Walker came on, every praise, you know, we sang it to the. And she's white and not Baptist, and I'm gonna turn you into one. Well, the night that I won the primary, and I said my thank yous, she cued the DJ, and he broke into every praise, and everybody on my staff knew the words to it. Everybody on my staff was up there, you know, on my campaign staff up there on that stage. My family's up on there on that stage, and they were singing that song. That is a moment I will never forget. And out of that moment, people, every time they hear Hezekiah Walker sing that song, they go, Bonnie, you better go hit such and such. Hezekiah Walker singing your song, you know? And that's not my favorite gospel song. My favorite gospel song is Change by Tremaine Hawkins. Yeah. But that's my signatures that brought together my desire and need to be in politics, but a communication to everybody. This is who I am. This right here, every praise. Yeah. And
then, like I said, every day you post your devotional, and I love that devotional. I've gone through it one time, and it's just so to see that, and you know, it's written as if God is speaking to you each and every day, and so it's just encouraging to see you actually post it every day.
Thank you. Well, I try to start I try to start myself that way. That grounds me. You know, it's a reminder. This is who you are. As you encounter whatever you encounter, this is who you are.
Right.
I have enjoyed this. It is good to see you. You look beautiful, and your ministry is wonderful. And this was a great conversation.
Yes, it was. And I just want to say, you know, now this is the Maya Angelou quote where she says that, you know, people, might not remember what you did, might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I can say that down through my years, you know, it's always been a pleasure working amongst you, whether it been in church. And I can even remember when you kind of got me my first job in high school, and that was working with the John Corzine campaign. And so that was years ago. But just to see, you know, every time we encounter one another, whether it be in any type of setting, you're always the same, always encouraging, and always so uplifting. So I just want to thank you. I thank you for this time, and I thank you for this opportunity. So I want to say, before we go, how can the people stay connected with you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I tweet. They can stay in touch with me through my website, my official website, or my campaign website. One is .house.gov. The other one is Bonnie Watson-Coleman for Congress. They can get me through you.
Yes, and if you're in the Ewing, Trenton area, you can just come to Shiloh Baptist Church. The pastor is Reverend Darrell L. Armstrong. Yeah. We'd love to see you there. And Congresswoman, she's there when she can, because I know she goes back and forth from Ewing to DC. But if you ever come in contact with Congresswoman, or as we know her as Miss Bonnie, you know, she will always bless you and encourage you. So before we leave, and I ask this for everybody, is there any parting words you want to give our viewers, something uplifting and encouraging you would like to share before we leave?
Yes, thanks, Kelly. Corey. I just want everyone.
It's
Kelly had a baby. Kelly had a baby. Right. Congratulations on that.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that was in my back of my mind when I was going to get on this call here. I just don't want anyone to get discouraged. I want them to recognize that, you know, God is still sovereign and that he's given us the ability to make choices and to do things. And that if we use our gifts for the good for one another, then good will come out of what we're doing. And so I just don't want anybody to feel helpless or hopeless. I know that mental health is an issue right now. For those of us who don't experience mental health problems, we've had mental health experiences during this COVID. I want them to know that they don't have to have that they can reach out and get help, because I don't want anyone to think that the life you are living isn't worth living, because it is.
I like that.
The last thing I want y'all to do is November the 3rd. I want you to vote.
That's right.
But before that, I want you to vote in the primary.
That's right. That's so important. That is so important. So many people skip the primary.
No, you can't skip it. I've got an opponent.
Wow. And so listen, Congresswoman, we thank you for coming on this platform today. To all our viewers, you know how we do. We have been blessed on this platform that every person that has come on this platform out of their heart, out of their kind heart, we have always been able to sow and been a blessing back to that person. So our viewers, the Cash App is up there. Whatever you give a donation, we will make sure that it gets to the Congresswoman to say, hey, we love you. We bless you, and to keep going. I know she doesn't like that, but I truly believe, and we've done this for every guest on the platform, and we've had big people on the platform, but I believe that when someone blesses you, the Lord says to bless them back. And so we thank you, and we thank you for this time, and we appreciate you so much for coming on WOW Ministries and just being a blessing to us and the people that are listening. And so we thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. But let me just say to you, if they want to send something, they need to send it to build your ministry. Ethically, I cannot accept anything, and I wouldn't want to. I did this out of my love for you, and I believe in your platform. So sow that seed to the WOW Ministry.
Okay, so she says so, but we just wanted, like I said, I wouldn't skip out, because I know, like I said, we've just been able to bless everybody that's come on this platform, but it was just a token, just to show that we appreciate and love you and honor you.
This conversation has blessed me.
Wow, it's blessed me too, and I'm reading all the comments, and so many people who are from other states, they've just been so blessed by what you've been saying. We have people from Illinois, Florida, Atlanta that's watching, and they've just been so blessed by what you have said and offered on tonight.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Corey. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yes, God bless you. And so we thank you for this time, and we hope to, that you'll be able to come back to a physical engagement with WOW Ministries, and we'll be able to discuss more there. So we thank you for your time, and we say God bless you to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Listen, we thank you for this time with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman. She is definitely an encouraging and an uplifting person. And so we pray that you were blessed on tonight, what was said during this time. And so we thank you. And I said, and if you want to sow a seed, you can sow it to my Cash App, Corey Malloy, $ Corey Malloy. And so with that, I bid everybody adieu, and I pray that you have a blessed night on tonight. And we say thank you. And stay tuned, because you'll never know who we have on this platform next. God bless you.